Today on the Wrestling Roundtable, Edge's career and remembering the Macho Man Randy Savage. Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable. I'm the host, Eric Santamaria. I've been in wrestling over 6.5 years. And sitting to my left, which is your right, Will Brooks, who is in our chat room on WrestlingRoundtable.com every Monday night. He's been a fan of 20 years. And to my right, which is your left, introducing James Pagaligan. He's been a fan of 25 years. And also to my right, your left, Will Vafidez, also known as TLD. Check out TLDWrestling.com to find out more. He's been a fan of 22 years as well. And I don't think I'm really the right person to be talking about Edge's career necessarily. If you've been watching the Wrestling Roundtable, I haven't been Edge's biggest fan, to say the least.
None of us are.
Well, that being said, I certainly am not going to take anything away from that retirement speech he gave on Raw the day after WrestleMania. Very emotional, very real. And I also don't want to take anything away from the fact that he had to give it up. He was forced to because of health issues, degenerative spinal problems, or as Hulk Hogan would say, being a pussy. But I'd like to start off by looking back on Edge's career by asking, this is a guy who I guess is like a few years removed from guys like Jericho, who grew up watching the WWF and became fans as they were younger and got into wrestling. But they were also in the, let's say, the last days of the territories. They had worldwide experience. Edge, of course, as we know, started in Indies in Canada. He had a couple tryouts in WCW before even getting into developmental for the WWF in '96. And then a couple years later, he's on TV as Edge, and here we are today talking about him. So are wrestlers like him dying out? And by that, I mean, you see guys who came after him, like Randy Orton, who came up, I mean, just a little bit of indie experience, but generally came up primarily in the developmental system, OVW, like Batista. These are guys that they generally got on early and built up in developmental the way they wanted from the ground up. They didn't have the same experience as the guys we're mentioning. So do you think guys like Edge are a dying breed?
Territories have died so much lately because everything's changed in wrestling. There's only one company compared to many opportunities out there. There aren't many opportunities for wrestling anymore. It's just a fact of it. It is dying out. A lot of us who watched in the 80s now decided, I want to be doing wrestling. That was a hot time, hot period, and a lot of people sprung into action, wanted to do that, and a lot of great talents came out of that, and we had great talent coordinators to find these people, and lately we haven't been getting that same deal. They're getting people from different genres, different, they're not even getting real people who
bodybuilders.
Yeah, they're getting people that are not really brought up to the wrestling. They like it for the fame and the money. These guys were about the heart. They really want to do this.
But on one hand, there's people like that, sure, like we talked about, Batista sort of guys. But then on the other, you talked about fans growing up in the 80s, fans who grew up in the 90s, guys like Bryan Danielson, Colt Cabana, CM Punk. They started off in the indies and have tons of experience, not just in this country, but worldwide also. Is that the new territories?
Unfortunately, yes, it is. These guys aren't bringing up as much. Because back in the territory days, a lot of guys got weeded out early. You couldn't make it, you were buried and you were gone. Nowadays, again, if you just have a good look, you'll be picked up by somebody, even if you suck.
About Edge himself, this is a guy that they targeted early on, that the push was getting behind him. They gave him a character, vignettes. They always seemed to like Edge. But why did it take so long for him to actually break through and become a main eventer?
Well, I think part of it was the whole being coupled with Christian in a tag team. Christian wasn't seen as a main eventer for a long time, and I think Edge was just in there with him. You see the Hardys, the Dudleys, they try to split them up, but you never really separate the two in your mind. The other thing is he never really had the look. I mean, he's coming up in a time when if you wanted a title, you had to put on 20 pounds and be cartoon hero big.
Well, he's a tall guy, but he's kind of lanky, and depending on whether he was on the bean or not, either looked cut or not, and it's usually after he came back from surgery and whatnot. So do you think that something was missing from him, and was that maybe the Lita, Matt Hardy storyline? Because that's really what pushed him up.
Yeah, that got him going because the personality came out of Edge. He had the funny side going, and the problem is when you do like a goofy gimmick, it's hard to take someone serious as a world champion like that. Sometimes.
They were doing 5-second poses.
Yeah, 5-second poses, which were really great. When he came back after that surgery, he wasn't getting the attention that he got before. And people were like kind of booing him. And you saw that on Raw. Like people were booing him. Like they didn't like what he was doing. The moment he started that personality, that rated R, personality came out. That's what really brought it out of him.
Yeah, until the Radar Superstar came out, he wasn't a good enough character really to be pushed like that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, people were into him. And when he was in the mid-card, let's say in 2002 especially, when SmackDown split off and he had feuds with Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, it seemed like, okay, he's doing well in the mid-card away from Christian this time, so not having that tag team attachment, but he was missing that one little piece. I guess it was that Edge, appropriate choice of words, that came about because of this real-life occurrence. And when he won the title unexpectedly with the Money in the Bank briefcase back in 2006, unexpectedly at New Year's Revolution or whatever from Cena, the ratings went up.
Yep.
So it seemed like he finally made it. But if he was such a draw, and it's not isolated here, this guy won like 1 million world titles in a few years. So, and I know injuries are part of that, sure. But if he was such a draw, which you'd think he was, people were into him, he was popular, why didn't he keep the belt longer than he ever did?
I think it was a sign of the times. Not many people actually do hold on to belt for that long anymore. But also, I didn't think he got enough heat. He got some, and he had good matches, but I don't think he got as much heat as other heels like he did, like Triple H or Bradshaw got heat.
I would disagree with that. He had him in the palm of their hand.
He pissed people off, but I don't think he had as much heat as those other two guys who were the top heels going at the time.
Do you think it was something to do with the opportunistic gimmick where he's the sneaky heel?
He was doing exactly what a heel does. He comes in at the right opportunity, which gave him that gimmick to win a title unexpectedly, even though as probably when Cena lost the belt, we were probably really excited for that as far as us, because we were like, it's someone new, someone different. Edge has never been a world champion before, and we've been waiting for so long for him to cash it in. You think he would have done it at like a time where, okay, I'm going to cash it in and I'll see you in 3 weeks. He did it at the most unexpected point, which made it even better. It made him more of a heel by doing it that way. Even though he only kept it for a couple of weeks, it still turned the ratings around. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Edge won the belt. We missed it. I didn't watch the pay-per-view. I gotta watch Raw to see what happened.
We're in a time, especially in the post-Benoit time period, that people are very almost hyper aware of concussions and the effects that the in-ring product can have on the body. Obviously, everybody knows things like knees degenerate over the time, but in Edge's case, and he certainly wasn't the only person to get spinal surgery back then, Bob Holly, Rhino, Austin, etc. There was a lot of that going on back then. But in Edge's case, degenerative spine problems. Do you think this is an indication not just of maybe the hardcore stuff, but the spear? I mean, he did the spear, and I never was a fan of it, but still the point is that doing that for like 10 years, that's got to have impact on his spine, right?
The ladder and the hardcore stuff, I think that got the ball rolling, though. I think the spear just kind of kept it going steadily and made it a steady decline at that point.
But, I mean, not every single match he wrestled was a hardcore match, but pretty much every match he did had a spear in it. Yeah. And he did it still after surgery.
But his spear wasn't like when you saw with Goldberg or Rhino. His spear was more like a clothesline to your stomach. He didn't really dig your shoulder into it. Well, so I think it's mostly what happened was it was the hardcore stuff. And over time, you're still like slamming on your back and all that stuff. It's just like the hardcore stuff really hurt it, and he just progressively got a little worse over time.
For someone who's hit a mat, that alone just kills your spine on a level. A spear to me, especially toward the later end of his career, he kind of took his time. Instead of going right into it, I think there were times where he would go a little too fast into the spear, like kind of like Goldberg style.
Yeah, but he didn't have the same build as a Rhino or Goldberg either. You know?
No, but I think that the build-up of a finishing move, it kind of slows you down, gets you going.
Because then it can be stopped.
Then it can be stopped. He slowed it down a little bit, and I think it wasn't that much of a serious injury compared to hitting the ring.
Well, now that he's not an active wrestler anymore, obviously he's still with the company making movies or whatever. So what role do you think Edge should have now that he's not an active competitor?
I think he should take Booker T's job on SmackDown. I think he's great.
Him or anybody at this point?
Him or anybody at this point.
He would be great either as a Raw GM. I think he'd be great for promos for WWE, going around.
PR.
Yeah, PR work, absolutely. He still has an image that can get across, and he can talk about his injury and compare it to maybe some people who are doing sports now and what the risks are, things like that.
Well, I just see him as a manager.
Yeah.
I think he could talk, and he can do run-ins, help his guy out. I'm not saying he should do it on a regular.
I don't think he could even perform.
Well, I'm talking like I think he could do just what old managers used to do, like take maybe one bump, or maybe like hold the guy's left. Well, you know what I'm saying, okay?
No. That's what he might do in the future. We're going to look back at what he did in the past, and look back at Edge's career, some of our favorite matches and moments when we come back.
You know, like it's going to be like his last match for a while before he goes to WWE.
Yeah, hopefully they don't give him a stupid name when he gets there.
You've been waking up at 3 o'clock every day and going to bed at 3 o'clock and doing fun in between. documentary documenting everything that's going on.
It's really different from being in WWE.
One of the best technical wrestlers you're ever going to encounter.
I just let it all hang out.
Everybody gets boners in their sleep.
Quit being ridiculous.
They see the shows, they see the matches, but they don't see the camaraderie and the road trips, everyone just having fun.
Yes, I am a professional wrestler.
It's very weird.
I'm acquiring satellites. Can you get me these satellites quicker? Okay, we're calculating that the satellites have been acquired.
Anything you want to say about Bryan Danielson really quickly, as we're sort of making a film?
Don't let him give you a stupid name when you get to the WWE.
Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable. The Wrestling Road Diaries is probably the most acclaimed wrestling documentary in quite some time. Thank you very much. And you can find out more at cultmerch.com or WrestlingRoadDiaries.com. I recommend spending $5 more and getting the 2-disc edition. You get tons of extra content on that disc. So splurge $5 more. I think you can afford it. Wrestling Road Diaries. Check it out. Introducing, coming to the panel once again, Orlando O'Neill, fan of 19 years, but on my left, which is your right, Martin LeConte, fan of 17 years, and we just had a segment on the career of Edge and questions about it, but I want to go back now to some of your favorite matches and moments, and I will freely admit that I'm going to let you guys do most of the talking, because I really don't have that many favorite moments that directly relate to Edge, unless you can't, like, Lita's nip slip during the live sex celebration or something. Yes. But what are some of your favorite Edge's moments?
The 10-second pose downs. They were just some of the funniest things that they come up with, especially when they would go to your town and when they would just pose like this, and then they would do some stupid things, like they would wear like different jerseys, they would do like Elvis suits, and some they even did one with Kurt Angle, which was really great. Kurt Angle, where he shaved his head, because Kurt Angle's reaction was just great. And
there was one thing missing. I think it was Backlash 02. There's one thing missing from that whole match or segment. Brutus Beefcake.
Okay, yeah.
When he was in the faction The Brood, that's what got him in his mid-card range. People started to notice him more. It was a good entrance and everything. Blood everywhere after the matches. That's where Edge started to get off.
These are more general, so do you have any specific ones, Orlando?
Yes, Edge and Christian's backstage segments. Trying to get out of matches against like The Undertaker and The Rock.
With Foley. Him and Foley,
what are we going to say now? Oh, I have genital warts. Oh, yeah, dude, Foley totally fought for that.
Or Christian couldn't perform.
Or Edge and Christian with the gazoos. You think you know me. That was, come on now.
That was Kurt Angle's birthday, wasn't it? I think
yes.
It's kind of reverse good, I guess, but I loved his debut match. No, not that. What I'm talking about. His debut match on Raw in '98. Do you remember that? Against Jose Estrada, he hurt him.
Oh, no.
Like, immediately. He did a plancha to the outside. His leg hit him in the head, gave him a stinger.
Oh,
like,
really?
Right off the bat, this guy, they had given vignettes to build up. It was like La Fenda looking sort of vignettes. Like, what's his deal? And then he comes in, this huge new superstar, and then, bam, he hurts someone right off the bat.
Cashing in the Money in the Bank was definitely the moment of his career, I think. People were waiting for so long, carrying that around. It was the first winner, and him winning it the first time, that was another great moment being Cena.
Well, let's move on to matches, and I'm going to have my own mental contest going on to see how many of these matches that you bring up don't involve hardcore or ladders. I think it's very few. I know Chris Harris has brought up on the show the Lance Storm Intercontinental title match at SummerSlam 2001, but I think that's few and far between. I think most of these are going to be hardcore style matches.
One of them that actually isn't, Edge and Undertaker at WrestleMania 24, there was no hardcore in that one.
The way Charles Robinson ran down to the ring was pretty hardcore. That's my favorite part of the match.
Yeah, so that match I thought was really great. First main event match for his career. You know, I think his only one. He really pulled it off against The Undertaker, and not many people can do that. And another good one that didn't involve hardcore, Kurt Angle at the King of the Ring 2001. That match, the semi-final match where Shane got involved, that one I thought was great because Edge won that eventually and put him on the map.
If that makes you feel any better, I'm sure as we speak, people are leaving comments on all the other non-hardcore matches that I missed. But what are some of yours, Martin?
It is the hardcore. His first tag team ladder match with him and the Hardy
Without a
Boys.
doubt.
It was a boring event, but before that match, you're like, wow, like
No, there was nothing else on the show that mattered beyond that match.
Except that match.
Austin,
Not in my mind.
Austin Triple H had an okay hardcore style main event, but that match.
I remember recording that on VHS, and I brought it to my friend's house the next day, and we watched it maybe like 10 times straight back because we had never seen anything
like that. And then all the TLC matches, but those matches are his main recorded match. There's only matches that people like really remember about.
Well, that match, the Hardys against Edge and Christian, the TIT tournament final, Terry Invitational tournament, it really took the ladder match to a new level. Not only in a tag format, but just the creative stuff these guys would come. And I'm not a fan of any of them, really. Yeah. But that match, I loved. I thought it was the best match WWF had that year.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
Kurt Angle and Edge in the steel cage match on SmackDown. I thought that was a really great match. That was a really great feud. Angle helped Edge.
Building him up.
Kind of like a main eventer, even though he's still in the mid-card. And then after that, he feuded with Eddie Guerrero. But I think that steel cage match was really good.
I liked Eddie Guerrero's match with Edge in SummerSlam 2002.
Yep.
Another non-hardcore match I thought was really good. I think people prefer their no DQ match on SmackDown right around that time.
Yeah. Him and Mick Foley at WrestleMania 22.
I didn't care for it.
I liked that match. I thought Foley helped Edge with that rated R gimmick. The whole feud, the build-up to it, I thought was really good. I still watch that match. Of all the WrestleMania 22 matches, that's one I still watch.
I actually thought Edge and Foley against against Terry Funk and Tommy Dreamer.
That's another good one too.
That's
another good one too.
And another good one is you forgot that was on Raw. It was Edge and Benoit, and it was really good. Nobody knew, but it's like one of these under matches that they just put out there and everything. But all of a sudden, for some reason, they put Edge and Benoit after the match. Edge walked away, and then Benoit was just smiling after that. And everybody just loved it. Nobody cared about the feud. Everybody just liked that match because people were clapping and cheering after that.
Well, mentioning He Who We Do Not Speak Of or Not, one of the great forgotten tag matches that they had was No Mercy 2002 for the finals of the SmackDown tag titles. Benoit and Angle against Edge and Mysterio. What a great tag match.
On SmackDown, they had a 2 out of 3 falls match, which was great also.
Matt Hardy, Unforgiven match that he had with him at the cage match they had. Very weird situation watching that. Matt Hardy went on the top rope and did a leg drop on him. And especially someone that you completely hate. It's like, would you really let someone do that? But again, there's professionalism in wrestling, and that's where that kicks in, where you just stick to the match. Whatever personal feelings you have, you let it go. But I still thought it was a good match.
Edge's greatest opponent was John Cena. 2 great main rivals, and I think the match, again, at Unforgiven that they had, the TLC match, I thought that was a pretty good match. I thought that was a really good match. I think it showed John Cena.
I thought it was forgettable.
No, you just can't have TLC matches without a tag team. That's the only way that the perfect ones were done. The two that you do one-on-one, it's like...
Yeah, I mean, WrestleMania 2000 wasn't really one of the greatest manias of all time, but that's one match that stands out. Exactly. There are a couple, like the mid-card match all stand out over the main event. That's how weird that WrestleMania was, that all those mid-card
And SummerSlam did that same year. They did the TLC match.
Yeah.
Who cared about them?
I always prefer the original because they had people get involved in the other ones that they had Lita and Rhino and all them getting involved. I thought the first one without anybody was actually better.
I thought WrestleMania 17 was the best, and then they had Rhino run in and Lita and Spike Dudley. I thought
they should have just been in it officially. So in that sense, I kind of prefer the SummerSlam 2000 one. But hey, I may not be an Edge fan. I may not have liked a lot of these matches, but I'll give credit where credit is due. Especially, not to bring it up again, that No Mercy tag ladder match back in '99. Amazing, innovative stuff. So at least he has some sort of legacy. But I don't think it can touch necessarily the guy we're going to move on to next, who didn't need ladders to have classics. Remembering the Macho Man Randy Savage when we come back.
Slaughter, right? That was Slaughter, right?
Yeah. Slaughter. Too bad they couldn't sell out the Coliseum.
I think they could. I think it's just the fact that they were trading 10. Right? That was the rumor.
Nah, that's not.
That was the rumor.
They couldn't fill that stadium up. That's why. On Sergeant Slaughter versus Hulk Hogan. There wasn't enough build-up. There wasn't enough build-up to it.
It's Edge. My favorite Edge moment actually was
when him and Hogan won the tag titles?
No, actually it was like he kicked the living shit out of Gangrel. One of those like times in life where you're like, dude, that guy's really getting his ass kicked. And I remember it actually left such an impression. This back when Edge still came out from the crowd. I remember like thinking, holy crap, this guy's really beating his ass. Edge and Christian with Foley was always the best, man.
Hey, man. I said my piece.
Chicken soup. Chicken soup. I'm totally barfing in it. I'm totally barfing.
How big the Matt Hardy feud could have been and they blew it.
Oh, no, I didn't remember that. I just thought that was our first suggestion.
But that hair match at Backlash Show 2 was really good. I remember watching that. That's what they do for 1 minute.
Yeah, right. 1 minute.